Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks and ready for our November 29th lesson in A Course in Miracles workbook for students. From the original edition, lesson 333. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. Forgiveness ends the dream. Forgiveness ends the dream. It wakes you up. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. Conflict must be resolved. And look what it can't be done with it. It cannot be evaded. And look at all the different ways he talks about being evaded. It cannot be evaded, set aside, denied, disguised, seen somewhere else, called by another name, nor hidden by deceit of any kind, if it would be escaped. Call a spade a spade. When you see some unlove, call on forgiveness and see what's going on. Don't try to set it aside. Just recognize that you're dreaming a dream and you don't need to dream it anymore. It must be seen exactly as it is, where it is thought to be, in the reality which has been given it, and with the purpose that the mind accorded it. For only then are its defenses lifted and the truth can shine upon it as it disappears. The prayer says, Father, forgiveness is the light you choose. Father, forgiveness is the light you chose to shine away all conflict and all doubt and light the way for our return to you. One more time. Father, forgiveness is the light you chose to shine away all conflict and all doubt and light the way for our return to you. No light but this can end our evil dreams. No light but the light that forgiveness has to offer us can end our evil dreams. No light but this can save the world. No light but forgiveness can save the world. For this alone will never fail in anything, being your gift to your beloved Son. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. Hey, and yesterday when I was reading to you out of John, I didn't tell you that it was out of John. I said the Bible, but I said chapter 14. Well, there's lots of 14s in the Bible, aren't there? It was John chapter 13, 34 and 35. Let me read it again. This is something we really want to get established. I mentioned to you that it's good to know the Bible because that's where the Course in Miracles came from. I'd like to clarify that just a little bit. It was based on the concepts that we have been understanding through the Bible. And I look at it as that Jesus said, hey, look, let's get this right. Let's go into the mind and look at the mind for what's going on. And let me clarify some terms. Make sure that your understanding of the Bible is understanding it the way that I want you to understand it, where we learn to practice love. That's the commandment I came to give you. And we're going to use forgiveness to practice that love. It's the great liberator from unloving thoughts. So the new commandment, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, and ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have loved one for another, one to another. So let's just remember that as we're studying A Course in Miracles, we're being given this wonderful, wonderful clarity on how to do that very thing, how to love our neighbor as ourselves and God with all our hearts. All right. Okay, let's go take a look now in our text reading for today. Of course, forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. I like to say that a few times during this message so that you really take that idea. If you forget everything else or you forget a lot of the other things, at least try to hang on to the lesson for the day and really take that one with you. I write it down and put it in my pocket. I write it down every morning, put it in my pocket, or use it as a bookmarker, but I know right where it's at, close at hand, so I can grab it and say, now what was that lesson? Oh yeah, forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. All right, and we're ready for paragraph 89. Let's start with 88 in the text. That's under chapter 9, the correction of error. And we're in the section 10 called Magic versus Miracles. We talked a little bit about what magic and miracles meant yesterday, so keep that in mind. I want to, even though I don't have you, it's a shame I don't have any radishes out here. I wanted to tell you that, you know, it's been now, several days here. What date I got marked on here? The, what is this? I can't even hardly read my writing. Was that on the 16th? Surely not that. No. The 19th, 15th. Oh my gosh. If it's been that long, I write that with a magic marker, and sometimes the washing of them gets it kind of washed off. But, you know, I think that these were Jerry's sprouts that I got from him, or his seeds, buckwheat. And, you know, I'm beginning to think that maybe he had them for a long time and that they're not going to sprout. So now we broccoli sprouts that I knew were old, but I thought that they would still sprout, or at least they'd have some germination. Didn't have any. And now I'm looking at these buckwheats, maybe the same way. Get good seeds. Now, you can always stir them, cook them up, and eat them as they are. Grind them, or just throw them into something you're going to cook and steam, or cook like an oatmeal or something. So you could just eat them that way, or give them to the chickens if you have chickens. If you don't have chickens, they make a nice addition to the compost. Okay, a couple different radishes that I wanted to talk just a little bit about. A Malaga, M-A-L-A-G-A. It's a 35-day round, and it says, round roots are a very unusual color. They're a deep plum purple violet, so pretty in contrast with the snow white flesh. Mild roots stay firm and crispy over a long season. We are very excited to offer this choice Polish variety. So it's a Polish variety. And I plan on raising some of those this year. And something else I noticed, they had a little write-up about how to cooking the radish. And in it says here that this is an article in their catalog, in the whole seed catalog by William Woys Weaver. And I like this little idea that says it was the turnip it was the turnip connection that made me curious about the way these radishes are eaten in Asia. Raw is obvious, but they are also cooked, pickled, salted, and even deep fried, which I wouldn't so much recommend deep fried, but, you know, a little tiny bit of oil, just a tiny bit, in a non-stick, something that, you know, doesn't get into your body in a negative way. I like porcelain. This opens up an entirely new culinary vista. So if you're planning to grow Asian radishes this year, start thinking outside the box once you bring them into the kitchen. You know, so and he this person gives a nice recipe, but what I'm just suggesting is that you know, start thinking of all the different ways that you can prepare foods. Radishes, we usually just think about chopped up in a salad or eating them whole raw, and which is a great way, and it's probably the best way. But there may be some nutrients that are released in the cooking, as I understand. Most of them are more available in the raw state, but that can always it changes with foods. So having a little bit cooked and a little bit raw might be a nice way to handle it. Okay, let's go take a look now in our text reading. We're going to start with 88. God's laws will keep your minds at peace, because peace is His will, and His laws are established to uphold it. His are the laws of freedom, but yours are the laws of bondage. Since freedom and bondage are irreconcilable, their laws cannot be understood together. The laws of God work only for your good, and there are no other laws beside His. Everything else is merely lawless and therefore chaotic. Yet God Himself has protected everything He created by His laws. Therefore, everything that is not under them does not exist. Laws of chaos are meaningless by definition. Creation is perfectly lawful, and the chaotic is without meaning because it is without God. You have given your peace to the gods you made, but they are not there to take it from you, and you're not able to give it to them. 89. So he's basically saying that only what is real is real. What God made is what's real. Everything else is a dream you're going to wake up from. You are not free to give up freedom, but only to deny it. You cannot do what God did not intend, because what He did not intend does not happen. Your gods do not bring chaos. You are endowing them with chaos and accepting it of them. All this has never been. Nothing but the laws of God has ever operated, and nothing except His will ever be. You are created through His laws and by His will, and the manner of your creation is established you as creators. Let's read that again. You were created through His laws and by His will, and the manner of your creation established you as creators. What you have made is so unworthy of you that you could hardly want it if you're willing to see it as it is. You will see nothing at all. You will see nothing at all. And your vision will automatically look beyond it to what is in you and all around you. Reality cannot break through the obstructions you interpose, but it will envelop you completely when you let them go. Okay, you see? Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. That's what he's explaining to us. Okay, let's continue on paragraph 90. When you have experienced the protection of God, the making of idols becomes inconceivable. When you've experienced the protection of God, the making of idols becomes inconceivable. There are no strange images in the mind of God, and what is not in His mind cannot be in yours, because you are of one mind, and that mind belongs to Him. It is yours because it belongs to Him. For ownership is sharing to Him. Ownership is sharing to God. And if it is so for God, it is so for you. His definitions are His laws, for by them He established the universe as what it is. No false gods you attempt to interpose between yourself and your reality affect truth at all. Peace is yours because God created you, and He created nothing else. Wow, He created one Son, and it's all of creation. And that's who you are. So see yourself in everything and everyone. Paragraph 91. The miracle is the act of a Son of God who has laid aside all false gods and who calls on His brothers to do likewise. Let's read that again, The miracle is the act of a Son of God who has laid aside all false gods and who calls on His brothers to do likewise. He set aside the ego and all of its loyalties and values and the god of sickness. You set it aside, and who calls on His brothers to do likewise, because that's all He sees in His brothers, is the true God, not the god of the ego. It is an act of faith because it is the recognition that his brother can do it. It is a call to the Holy Spirit in his mind to call to him, which is strengthened by his joining. It is a call to the Holy Spirit in his mind, a call to him which is strengthened by his joining. Because the miracle worker has heard him, he strengthens his voice in a sick brother by weakening his belief in sickness, which he does not share. The power of one mind can shine into another because all the lamps of God were lit by the same spark. It is everywhere, and it is eternal. And the last paragraph, 92. In many only the spark remains, for the great rays are obscured. In many only the spark remains, for the great rays are obscured. We're all bright lights, but in some of us only the spark remains. We can't see that bright light so well. Look what he says about this. Yet God has kept the spark alive so that the rays can never be completely forgotten. If you but see the little spark, you will learn of the greater light, for the rays are there unseen. See, even just any little scrap of goodness you see in your brother is that spark that shows that God is alive, and it is what animates that man. It makes that man or woman be who they are, who they're alive. It's the little spark. It says, if you but see the little spark, you will learn of the greater light, for the rays are there unseen. Perceiving the spark will heal, but knowing the light will create. Yet in the returning, the little light must be acknowledged first. Yet in the returning, as we return to God, the little light must be acknowledged first. For the separation was a descent from magnitude to littleness. But the spark is still as pure as the great light, because it is the remaining call of creation. Put all your faith in it, and God Himself will answer you. Put all your faith in that little spark, that little snippet of goodness you see. Put all your faith in it, because it points to the great light. And he says, put all your faith in it, and God Himself will answer you. Okay, let's go take a look now in our lesson 333. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. The write-up we're supposed to be reading every day for 10 days is, what is the ego? The ego is idolatry, the sign of limited and separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life in death. It is the will that sees the will of God as enemy and takes a form in which it is denied. The ego is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true. The ego is insane. In fear it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite. In its insanity, it thinks that it has become a victor over God Himself. And in its terrible autonomy, it sees the will of God has been destroyed. It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams. Its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. The Son of God is egoless. That's our true identity, and we want to walk in our true identity. The Son of God is egoless. What can He know of madness and the death of God when He abides in Him? What can He know of sorrow and suffering when He lives in eternal joy? What can He know of fear and punishment, of sin and guilt, of hatred and attack, when all there is surrounding Him is everlasting peace, forever conflict-free and undisturbed, in deepest silence and tranquility? To know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, and the cost belief in it entails. In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the Son of God is offered daily at its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar where its sickly followers prepare to die. Yet will one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light, the altar to illusions, to the shrine of life itself. And peace will be restored forever to the holy minds which God created as His Son, His dwelling place, His joy, His love, completely His, completely one with Him. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. How many times we need to remember that forgiveness is not the making of something that's unloving real and then dismissing it because you're a good person. You're going to, even though they did that bad thing, you're going to let them go. Forgiveness is the acknowledgement in yourself and to them if you want, but it's the acknowledgement inside you that if it's not of love, then it can't be at all. It has to be a dream. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. Conflict must be resolved. It cannot be evaded, set aside, denied, disguised, seen somewhere else, called by another name, nor hidden by deceit of any kind, if it would be escaped. It must be seen exactly as it is, where it is thought to be, in the reality which has been given it, and with the purpose that the mind accorded it. For only then are its defenses lifted, and the truth can shine upon it as it disappears. And the prayer, these different, in quotes, realities that we make, whatever the mind accorded it, and it says that it must be seen exactly as it is, where it is thought to be, in the reality which has been given it, and with the purpose that the mind accorded it. So these are different, you might think of them as different levels of unreality even. But they're whatever you think is real, you still got to accept it as, okay, this is what I've accepted as real, but I know it must be an illusion. I think I'll exchange it for forgiveness. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. The prayer says, Father, forgiveness is the light you chose to shine away all conflict and all doubt and light the way for our return to you. No light but this can end our evil dreams. No light but this can save the world, for this alone will never fail in anything, being your gift to your beloved Son. For this alone, forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. And he says, no light but this can save the world, for this alone will never fail in anything. There's no dream that it can't remove, no conflict that it can't heal. Why? Because it's being your gift to your beloved Son. It's God's gift to us, this forgiveness. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here.